Welcome to the Porecast. I'm your host, Carly Harmson. As a licensed master esthetician with nearly 2 decades of experience, I feel confident to meet you here every week to educate about the latest trends and must-have skin treatments, as well as to decode the science and demystify the overwhelming world of skincare. Whether you're a wide-eyed, curious beginner or you're a veteran skincare pro, this is the podcast for you. So grab your favorite face mask and come discover with me someone who's not only a skincare guru, but also a card-carrying member of Skincare Obsessed, just like you. Get ready for this episode of the podcast, starting now. Hello and welcome back. I appreciate you joining me each and every week, and I hope you're having as much fun as I am. Or maybe this is your first time here. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Carly. I'm a licensed master esthetician and instructor, and I hope you'll stay a while and allow me to be your skin guru moving forward. We are winding down on my March Madness over on my socials, and we are at the final 4, if you can believe it. If you didn't know, I am hosting my first ever annual March Madness skincare style, because why not? I've seen, of course, the official NCAA, I think, March Madness getting ready to kick off. I've seen March Madness where people are voting for their favorite hot male celebrities. You know, I'm just not really interested in those outcomes. What I am interested in is skin and skincare, and I do care about it, like a lot. So this Friday, we are narrowing down to our final 2, our top 2, and I'm dying to see which holy grail products get there. I know it's going to be a battle to the finish line to our 2024 number 1 voted ultimate skincare product. And a reminder, that is voted on by my community over on my Instagram. So if you haven't been voting, go over there this Friday and make your voice heard. Okay, on to the main event. And for some of you that know a little bit about me, my background, you might be surprised to see the title of this episode, which is likely quite controversial, and that is The Dirty Secret of Clean Beauty. Why? Because many of you know that I employ holistic approaches into a multifaceted method of skincare, and because I represent and educate for a professional organic skincare line that would fit many of the parameters of what fans of clean beauty look for. To be very clear, this brand I work with does not claim or subscribe to this term, but many fans of the brand might classify it as a clean brand. And I know many of you can't see me, but I'm doing clean in quotation fingers. So although I represent and educate for this brand, and I love the brand so much, I don't look at skincare in a black and white way. I don't subscribe to a single brand or a set of rules for skincare products, but rather I am drawn to and use personally and professionally the best tool for the job. And after this episode, I invite you to assess skincare and beauty in a more nuanced way too. One of the reasons I wanted to do this episode is because I have found there can be a lot of misinformation and misleading that can happen when claims from the camp of clean beauty are made. I also want to discern the different terms that are being used and bring clarity to the regulatory practices, spoiler alert, or lack thereof, of these terms. Many of you that tune in every week are working skincare and beauty pros, so it's important that we are well versed and informed on this important topic. For those of you that are fans of skincare, you deserve to be empowered with knowledge so that you are not a victim of the clever marketing that can surround this concept, and you're able to make fully informed decisions when you are purchasing skincare. Now, and this is important, there is nothing wrong with having preferences of skincare that you use personally or professionally. For example, many consumers will not F with a skincare or beauty brand if it's not certified cruelty-free or carbon neutral or on a mission to become carbon neutral. And I'm all about that. I just want to bring some transparency to some of the misleading terms or greenwashing that can happen so that we can be savvy consumers and professionals. So, should we do it? A question was posed on a skincare forum. What does clean beauty mean to you? So, I want to read some of these responses. And these are all quotes. Clean beauty to me is products that are good for my health and good for the environment. Sounds nice. All right, next. Clean beauty movement is just a predatory, anti science, consumer manipulation tactic to fearmonger people into paying more and convincing them they can't use anything else. End quote. Wow. Tell us how you really feel. Am I right? Next quote. For me, clean beauty is basically things without added fragrance or unnecessarily plasticky containers. Another quote. Clean anything is a marketing term. There are some natural ingredients that are way worse for skin than some artificial ingredients. Next excerpt. I'm skeptical about using ingredients I can't pronounce. End quote. Let me warn you to stay away from the official botanical names and classifications of plant based ingredients. They can be tough. Another quote, clean and green is marketing propaganda. Another quote, give me cruelty free skincare that I can properly recycle. I value that standard of clean beauty. And then, last but not least, this final quote I pulled, everything is made of chemicals. I personally like preservatives in my expensive skincare. Clean doesn't even have an actual definition. Did you just get whiplash there? Because I did. As you can see, the jury is definitely out on what clean beauty actually even is. If I wanted to try to define clean beauty for this episode today, I'm going to have a really hard time doing it because the credo of clean beauty is quite murky and really subjective. With the crowdsourced responses that I just shared, it may even feel you more confused or unclear, but I am going to do my best today to break down what clean beauty means. What many consider clean beauty to be means that it's free of certain ingredients or practices that are considered to be potentially hazardous according to the adopters of this movement to human health. Although importantly, I need to say this, these ingredients are considered safe by the FDA currently. So in my opinion, it could be looked at as a sparkly new buzzword or term that represents free from marketing, free from this ingredient, free from that ingredient. So it's definitely a more catchy, marketing worthy name. I'll give it that. Oftentimes, those that subscribe to this philosophy believe this group of ingredients are considered unsafe chemical ingredients that may be looked at as possible carcinogens or endocrine disruptors. According to Goop, which I don't find myself quoting too often, Gwyneth Paltrow's brand, Goop, which by the way, she's the queen of clean. I quote, clean beauty products are those made without ingredients shown or suspected to harm human health, end quote. Clean beauty may also be called non-toxic, which can affirm to consumers that anything else is toxic. Supremely, there is not consensus by an authority, a certifying body, or a collective that agrees on what clean beauty actually is. But I will share some common themes that I've picked up as I understand it. So know that this list does not represent everyone's idea of clean beauty, but I think it captures a lot of it. Some standards or qualifications of clean beauty include, of course, natural claims or organic ingredients, plant-based ingredients, free from parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial perfumes or fragrance, free from formaldehyde, chemical-free or non-toxic skincare claims, sustainable practices or eco-friendly claims, no animal testing or use of animal derivatives, and no use of controversial ingredients. So let's talk about these in a little more depth. Let's start with the term natural. Natural skincare would likely indicate complete formulas made with ingredients sourced directly from, you guessed it, nature. The global natural skincare products market which could be associated with that clean beauty movement I was speaking of. It grew from 17.8 billion in 2022 to 19.4 billion in 2023. And there's big players in this arena. Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal, Unilever, they're all cashing in with massive growth in this area and category expected to grow in the next decade. So, what's the big deal? It seems that mainstream society is wholeheartedly embracing natural skincare more and more based on these stats. Well, the problem is that there's no way to verify if a product is natural. Of course, consumers can be responsible to look beyond claims and read the labels, but most will not. And while many plant and botanically based ingredients have been shown to improve certain skin issues, sure, many people do react from skincare that has weak preservative systems, plant based allergens, and essential oils. So natural. In fact, one 2023 research letter concluded that researchers who analyzed 1,651 so called natural products found that 94.2% had at least one contact allergen that could potentially lead to contact dermatitis. So, on the other hand of that, let's chat about the term organic. Organic is embraced by this clean beauty movement. So, how is it different from natural? It could mean the plants are planted, grown, and harvested in a different way than conventional plant ingredients, and many claim this results in more potency. But it may also mean that ingredients are non GMO, which some people do value. Better than the term natural, organic is somewhat regulated. In the US, where I live and am a licensed professional, the use of the term organic, it's actually not regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, as many people think, but it's actually regulated by USDA, the US Department of Agriculture, in partnership with the National Organic Program, or NOPE, NOP. Not to be confused with one of my favorite TV characters, Leslie Knope, who feels like she could be mixed up in all of this somehow. But that's pretty strange, right? The four main claims that can be made through USDA include 100% organic. This would be used to label any product that contains 100% organic ingredients, excluding salt and water, which are considered natural. Organic would be the second claim, which is any product that contains a minimum of 95% organic ingredients, again, excluding salt and water. The third claim is made with organic ingredients, which are products that contain at least 70% organically produced ingredients, excluding salt and water, with a number of detailed constraints regarding the ingredients that comprise the non organic portion, so that 30% or less. And then finally, specific organic ingredient listings. Specific organic ingredients may be listed in the ingredient statement or the ingredient deck of products containing less than 70% organic contents. So, an example of this would be a product that says with organic ingredients, maybe on the front of the package or on the box. And then when you flip it over to the back to the ingredient deck, it'll have the list of the ingredients in order of most concentrated to least. But those organic ingredients are usually going to be bolded and it will say organic. So organic rosehip oil, organic aloe, and then oftentimes it has a little asterisk after, and then at the bottom it will say something like denotes organic ingredients. So that's another way that organic can be labeled. But in only the 100% organic and organic claims, those first two I mentioned, can a brand or manufacturer apply to use the official USDA organic seal, that certification, which in order to obtain can be time intensive and costly. Keep in mind an ingredient like organic denatured alcohol, which again can be sourced from something organic, could be a first ingredient in a label and make that formula organic. And organic doesn't always mean healthy for the skin. I'm not a fan of denatured alcohol in most products, so I find that to be very drying and irritating to skin. But you could have an organic product that was, say, maybe a toner that its base was denatured alcohol or SD alcohol, that may over time cause problems with the skin in terms of the health of the skin, with like the barrier function and the skin microbiome. So it's important for us to realize that organic doesn't necessarily mean healthy or good for the skin. A common tenet of clean beauty is plant-based or botanically based skincare ingredients. And listen, I'm a fan of a lot of the plants out there that we use commonly in skincare. But like the term natural, these ingredients and formulas can, have some results like superficially hydrating or reducing redness, but there's so many botanicals that can cause issues, especially in reactive skin. Ingredients like citrus essential oils, tea tree, and yes, even the beloved lavender, just off the top of my head. Patch testing, even plant-based skincare, is not a bad idea for those reactive and sensitive skins. Okay, next on that list was non-toxic ingredients. Again, my quotation fingers for those of you that aren't watching the podcast. So non-toxic ingredients might include ingredients like parabens, phthalates, sulfates, formaldehyde. This is not my assessment. This is just what's generally accepted. And non-toxic and toxics are both not regulated terms. But according to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, who has more to do with consumer marketing and claims, who also do not regulate, they agree a non toxic claim likely conveys that a product, package, or service is non toxic both for humans and for the environment generally. So there's a lot of words in there that still make it kind of vague. And while they do have some guides on how to use this claim in marketing, it is not law. So I want to just speak to a couple of those ingredients that are commonly classified in that toxic realm from fans of the clean beauty movement. Parabens are a very common one that are villainized, and I want to explain what it is just in case you don't know. Parabens are a family of related compounds that are commonly used as preservatives in cosmetic products. Preservatives play a very important role in our personal care products, and they are used to prevent the growth of harmful bacteria or mold in order to protect both us and the product. So, with parabens being a very common group of those preservatives, you might have heard some of these parabens that include methylparaben, ethylparaben, and propylparaben. And in many cosmetic formulas, there is a combination of these parabens, which is to provide a broad spectrum protection against microorganism or pathogenic growth. These are some of the most accessible and affordable forms of tried and tested protection and preservation solutions of a cosmetic, which is going to help a product become more shelf stable, longer, and also safer for use. However, critics of the class of ingredients consider it toxic due to some reactivity in consumers, potential hormone disruption, and a possible eco disaster to marine life if these parabens are able to bioaccumulate in the ocean. So, based on my research, there isn't large or meaningful studies or science to prove these concerns. It could still be enough for a large group of people to avoid it altogether. The FDA says they continually review scientific studies on paraben safety, and as of now, at this recording, they've not found evidence indicating adverse effects on human health when used in cosmetics. Okay, phthalates, and that's spelled Phthalates. Phthalates are synthetic compounds used commonly in plastics to harden them and make the plastic more durable. But forms of these phthalates are also used as solvents in personal care products like nail polish, hairspray, and fragrance. The FDA, remember the Food Drug Administration, at this time does not have evidence that phthalates, as used in cosmetics, pose a safety risk. With that said, some consumers will take pause with this class of ingredients, as there is some speculation that the ingredient can be an endocrine disruptor with concerns of reproductive toxicity, and it is banned in the EU. It does appear that brands are utilizing this ingredient less and less, though, due to consumer demand. Sulfates are a group of surfactant or detergent ingredients that essentially and technically create surface tension in the skin, but more simply, they make bubbles. So they're commonly found in anything used to wash. So shampoos, facial cleanser, hand soaps, and body washes. I'm in the US, and so most attuned to the regulations of my governing bodies, like the FDA. I can tell you the FDA, Health Canada, and the EU all consider sulfates to be safe in cosmetic use. It's GRAS, y'all. GRAS is GRAS, generally recognized as safe. Some brands or individuals may skip the sulfates, though, due to it possibly stripping and drying effects on the skin, which can possibly lead to barrier problems, as well as concerns of allergenic reactions for really sensitive skin. Finally, in these types of ingredients that are regarded as toxic according to this dogma, we have formaldehyde. In beauty products, formaldehyde is mostly used as a preservative to prolong shelf life and prevent bacterial contamination. It is thought to cause anything between a mild to a severe skin reaction, and when it is heated, as in the case of some chemical hair straightening treatments and products, it can release gases that are problematic if inhaled. They pose very serious health risks. So surprisingly, it's kind of accepted that this ingredient, widely accepted that this ingredient is one that we really probably shouldn't use or use in cosmetics. And although the FDA has not all out banned the ingredient, they are currently initiating a ban in hair relaxer products. In fact, they're making an unprecedented move to ban it in those products as early as next month, April 2024, which is unusual. The FDA doesn't ban ingredients too often. And according to some critics, it's like way overdue. While there are other controversial or toxic or dirty ingredients, according to clean beauty brands and fans, I'm not going to speak to those today. I just wanted to speak to a few that are more commonly marketed to be free from. Now, on to the claim of chemical free. And I see this a lot more, less with brands, but more with consumers that say, I want chemical free products. This claim is pretty problematic as we know that the definition of chemical is any substance that has defined composition. So, in other words, a chemical is always made up of the same stuff. And some chemicals occur in nature, like water is a chemical. Other chemicals are manufactured, like chlorine. The inherent problem with calling skincare or beauty products chemical free is at best, it's an ignorant take, and at worst, it's a deliberate fib to appeal to a certain group of consumers. Chemicals are all around us and are not inherently good or bad. They just are. I think what people are really trying to decipher when using these terms or seeking them is naturally occurring ingredients versus synthetic ingredients. But it's not as snazzy for a marketing claim, though, right? You will always have people that are seeking out ingredients from nature and looking to avoid man made ingredients. That is a-okay. But I think that it is worth mentioning that synthetic doesn't mean bad. For example, if you are an animal lover that seeks ingredients that are kind to animals, you may not know that much of the all popular hyaluronic acid is oftentimes derived from pig skin or bovine. So you may have a moral or ethical issue with that. And it may be more expedient that you seek formulas that utilize a synthetic or man-made or lab-made, whatever you want to call it, form of sodium hyaluronate. Another example of a widely considered safe and inert ingredient used in skincare is something like a synthetic ceramide, which can greatly improve the health and vitality of the skin. Synthetic doesn't mean bad. Natural doesn't mean good. Synthetic doesn't mean good. And natural doesn't mean bad. There's a lot of nuance here, and it comes down to complete formulations. All right, next, another pillar of this movement is sustainability, greenness, eco-friendly. Sustainability is something that's becoming more and more important to humans. And, personally, I'm on board. Although this term is trending and noteworthy, remember there's no real way to verify this claim either. It just requires me, you, any consumer to research, study, and ask questions from brands directly on how they are being green, on how they are being eco-friendly, how they produce products in a way that supports sustainability. This may include the rise of ingredients like bamboo or algae extracts, which are considered very sustainable sources for human consumption as they rebound and regrow very quickly. Interestingly, though, in many cases, synthetic ingredients can be considered more sustainable sometimes as they don't require harvesting Mother Earth's natural resources. So there is that too. Other practices can include more eco packaging like paper or glass, refillable components, recycling programs, considerations of energy use and consumption to make the products, and reducing CO2 emissions, just to name a few. The green beauty trend is not going anywhere, so getting familiar with certifying bodies as a professional or consumer is a good idea. From my current understanding, the most respected certifications globally include Certified B Corporation, EcoCert, Fair Trade, and Forest Stewardship Council. However, none of these organizations are regulated or mandated by any one authority, so it can make verification of claims a bit of a challenge. Next up, I want to speak to the claim of no animal testing or cruelty free. As an animal lover, I was happy to see this movement get traction in the beauty world about 10 years ago. Unfortunately, the terms cruelty free or not tested on animals, they're more unregulated claims. While I could do a whole podcast episode on animal testing in the beauty industry, today suffice to say that it is not as clear as we might hope. Manufacturers may claim cruelty free based on a completed whole formula, but still use ingredients that have been or are being tested on animals. Currently, there are few independent certifying bodies that have strict and strong standards that consumers may look to if this is something that's important to them. Based on my research at the time of this recording, the strongest look to be the cruelty-free International Leaping Bunny certification. So you look for a bunny icon in packaging and marketing if a product has been deemed kind to animals. Others might include PETA Approved certification, which certifies the whole brand as animal friendly rather than individual product certifications. And then the Vegan Society is another certifier that requires not only the products are free of animal testing, but also free of animal ingredients or derivatives. All right, finally, no use of controversial ingredients. While this can kind of be in that non toxic claim category, I do want to speak to a few other ingredients that are important to mention. So, the first being synthetic fragrance or perfume, artificial dyes, and controversial actives like hydroquinone. So, synthetic fragrance or perfume is considered extensively to be the most common topical skincare allergen. It is added to products, of course, to give a better user experience and to mask unpleasant odors of some skincare ingredients. One skincare label that has the ingredient listed perfume once could be comprised of thousands of varying chemical combinations, which can increase risk of reaction. Although fragrance has been really villainized the last few years, I see pleasant fragrance making a comeback this year and in the next few years to come. Check out my episode 2 Forecast Forecast. These are my predictions for beauty trends in 2024 to learn more. But I think there are people that tolerate fragrance just fine in their skincare, and I think there's people that do not. So for me, this one comes down to more of just that personal result or reaction. Okay, kind of alongside fragrance and skincare are dyes, and these are used to give a more aesthetic appearance and appeal to the consumer's eye. Dyes can be problematic, though, as another known topical skincare allergen, with ingredients like red dye number 40 and coal tar being the most common offenders. There are a whole host, though, of colorants and cosmetics that are approved, and grass, generally recognized as safe according to the FDA. Controversial active ingredients like hydroquinone, which is a synthetic ingredient designed to lighten clusters of pigment. It's also been called a skin bleach or a skin lightener, was for many years the gold standard in pigment care and considered safe in the US. But shockingly, recently, a change. Yes, quietly in September of 2020, you remember that haze of a world we all lived in? The FDA banned over the counter 2% hydroquinone. So, most of my colleagues and other STs in the industry may not even know this today. It was very quiet, it wasn't really publicly announced in like a strong PR kind of way. It went under the radar for me for quite some time. So today, it should only be available by a healthcare provider in concentrations ranging from 2 to 4% in the US. And it's not really available anywhere else. That's right. Hydroquinone is banned in most first world countries, including the entire EU, Japan, and Australia. There are known side effects and risks with this ingredient, including facial rashes, swelling, severe irritation, and even permanent darkening of the skin. So you're definitely not going to find that in a clean beauty brand anymore because it doesn't fit, it doesn't align with the beliefs of clean beauty, but also it shouldn't be available over the counter anymore anyway. Whew, okay, are you all still with me? That was a lot to cover. I wanted to dig into each of those just a little bit and can always do a full episode on any one of those topics that we just went through. But it is important to me to make myself crystal clear here. And it is that I take no issue with you as a professional, you as a consumer seeking out brands that are free of certain ingredients or practices that you take issue with. What does have me concerned and why I'm making this episode today is the lack of regulation and transparency around a blanket term like clean or natural or green. Because I think I've proven my point today, these terms are not regulated. And it leaves a lot of room for brands to market with an agenda, which can be deceitful. So, more simply, clean beauty is not regulated, so a brand can claim it to be whatever they want. So, a very recent example of the lack of clarity surrounding this issue is that Sephora and I believe Ulta and Target were named in a class action lawsuit alleging products labeled clean, or, in this case, clean at Sephora, were deceptive marketing because they contain synthetic or otherwise harmful ingredients to the people that subscribe to the clean beauty concept. Guys, get this. That lawsuit was just thrown out by a judge 11 days ago. So it didn't go through, and Sephora and these other big brands didn't have to settle or be sued, but it does show how the category and claim of clean can mislead consumers, especially uninformed consumers. It's just murky, murky, murky. Okay, so before we wrap, I have referred to the FDA a lot in this episode. And in case you didn't know, the FDA is the Food Drug Administration. The FDA is responsible for some regulation in regards to cosmetics, but it's really not as much as you might think. So, up until 2022, the FDA basically regulated cosmetics in this way. One, adulteration. So, an ingredient, formula, or package that may injure or harm someone. So, something's wrong. Generally, manufacturers and brands are not going to intentionally bring a harmful product to market. It's just obviously not a wise business decision. So, this is usually unintentional, but may have something like, let me think of an example, was formulated incorrectly and has a much stronger percentage of an active that was approved and is causing a lot of injury to skin. That might be an example. Number two would be misbranding or mislabeling claims. So an example of this would be a container of skincare that was made, formed, and filled and claimed to be filled at 8 ounces. But in fact, it is actually filled at 6 ounces, which again could be a mistake or it could be a little bit of a devious act from a brand. Or another example is that it says it has ingredients in the marketing, in the overall packaging that aren't actually in the ingredient deck or formula. And then finally, like safety concerns, which kind of goes with the adulteration. So, an example that I can think of that happened in my career surrounding safety was in the 2000s, brands started to really ramp up the use of SPF claims, sun protection claims. So, eventually in the US, we had brands that were labeling and marketing as an SPF 100, for example. And what we do know with sun protection is it's a formula. It's basically how many minutes any individual, based on their unique skin tone and likelihood of burning, will burn in the sun. So that formula allows you more time before you have that burn in the skin. And we know that you really can't utilize anything much more than like an SPF 30 to an SPF 35 before you just need to reapply, because that sunscreen has worn off or rubbed off, that you no longer have the protection. So when we start seeing SPF 50, 70, 90, 100, it led to a lot of consumers using a product, putting it on once, SPF 100, going to the beach, and then never reapplying because they thought they had all of this protection, and they end up with severe burns. So the FDA came in and said, really, you can't label anything over an SPF 50 anymore. And I want to say that happened around the 2010s. I didn't research it, so I apologize. I can't give you the official citing of it, but I just remember from my time in the industry how that went down. So they will regulate or come in and oversee brands or problems if they get a lot of reports of damage to the skin, like we saw with the sunscreen debacle. So they can be involved in a cosmetic recall announcement. They do make a distinction between cosmetics and drugs. Stay tuned for another episode that will dive into that more. And they do not require manufacturer submission or approval of new formulas. So when brands bring products to market, they don't have to run them by the FDA. They will do an investigation into a harmful cosmetic, like I mentioned, but this will be solely based on consumer reporting or voluntary reporting from a brand. So, in another way, in the US, cosmetic companies have no obligation or responsibility to prove that a product is safe, just that it doesn't do harm. And I know it sounds like I'm saying the same thing right there, but let me say it one more time. Cosmetic companies have no obligation or responsibility to prove that a product is safe, just that it doesn't do harm. So skincare manufacturers are considered responsible for the safety and health of their users when bringing skincare to market, but a lot of times if there's safety problems, it's after the fact, and it's usually largely in part due to consumer reports to the FDA. But just over a year ago, President Joe Biden signed the Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act of 2022, or MOCRA, into law, making the first significant update on the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. So, in other words, nothing has really changed since 1938 until 2022. The law took effect, I think, just last year, and MOCA grants the Food and Drug Administration more control over cosmetics, introducing recall authority, more facility registration requirements, and improved labeling. So time will tell how this impacts the beauty world as a whole. I imagine that there will be people that are really on board with this change, and I imagine there will be people that are not. It looks like it might make smaller indie brands more difficult to bring products to market, but I'm unsure. So we'll see how this unfolds. So, okay, so tell me, did I miss anything here when overviewing these definers of the clean beauty movement? Is there any of these mini topics you'd like me to dive into deeper in a future episode? As always, I'd love to hear from you. So email me directly or DM me on my socials. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you maybe took some good notes and you feel a little more empowered and informed when you are choosing skincare for yourself, or if you're a professional, when you're choosing skincare for your clients. And I hope you have a great week. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you liked this episode, be sure to share it with a bestie or on your socials. And if you love the episode, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Your positive feedback means so much to me. You can connect with me at The Real Besthetician on Instagram or The Besthetician anywhere else. And hey babe, this week's podcast looks like clear with a chance of glow. See you next time.